Who do you think deserves to be the NFL MVP? I'll let Tony go ahead and start it off.
No, I'd rather have you start it off since you have kind of underdog, I guess. You could say that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start off with the who I think deserves NFL MVP. This isn't necessarily who I think is gonna win. I know Lamar Jackson is gonna win, but I think Russell Wilson definitely
Don't say
deserves.
that.
Huh?
Don't say that. Have some
No, it's not. It's
confidence.
not. No,
in
Lamar
this
Lamar
opinion.
Jackson is like like he's great and it's fun to watch him and it's
I
it's
feel
not
so
necessarily
boring for just saying.
it's not necessarily who I it's not I didn't say who I think is gonna win. I mean I think everyone knows Lamar Jackson locked it, but I think it's who deserves it. There are plenty of years where NBA MVPs won where I was like, nah, it should have been LeBron this year or somebody else. So I think Russell Wilson most definitely deserves to be MVP. Did y'all know that they are the number one seed in the NFC? That's ridiculous. They're the number one seed in the toughest division also. They got the 49ers in their division. They got the Rams. They got the Cardinals, who are actually really good. No one actually watches them, but they're actually really good. They just play really tough opponents. Kyler Murray has been amazing this year. So, yeah, they're 11-3. They're number one seed. And if you look at his team, he's working with marginal talent. I wouldn't even consider them a top 10 roster in the NFL. They have no real number one receiver since Doug Baldwin retired. You can't really say Lockett is a number one receiver. He looks like a number one receiver, but he's really like a gadget guy. They have the 31st best pass blocking in the league, so they're dang near last in pass blocking. So it's not like Russell Wilson has a lot of time or a lot of protection, and their defense is ranked 21st in scoring defense. So it's not like his defense is doing anything special either. So he's doing the most with the least. I think that's literally what defines what an MVP is. When it comes to comparing him versus Lamar Jackson, he has 3,708 yards versus Lamar Jackson's 2,889 yards. He has a higher completion percentage. He has more yards per attempt. And I would say Lamar is in a more elite system that's really based around him. They've got a very creative running game. They've got big tight ends. And they got a downfield threat with Hollywood Brown, a good defense, and their kicker is literally the GOAT. So I think Lamar Jackson fits into his system really well, and they designed a system around Lamar Jackson that you got to, give praise to their coaching staff and give praise to their organization for seeing this and making it happen. But Lamar Jackson is just a part of a really good system, in my opinion, while Russell Wilson is his system, literally.
To that point of the system, I do feel like it should also be noted that, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have been working together for a very long time now. And they've actually been to a Super Bowl before, so, they're, like, well-oiled, and they kind of know what they want to do. But for this Ravens offense, this is kind of the first year we've seen this offense in full effect. And if you look at the weapons, I think they're, like, worse. I mean, all the tight ends that are balling out right now are, like, no names before this year. And if you look at Hollywood Brown, I mean, like, a lot of people didn't think he could do, like, what he's done. Then you have, like, Willie Snead, couple other no-name wide receivers, and then Mark Ingram, which was a backup running back. So I just feel like this offense is definitely like living up to expectations that weren't there. And I feel like not saying the Seahawks have a great offense, but I think their offensive weapons are like a little better than Baltimore's.
You think so? They have the 31st ranked offensive line. That's not very good.
I mean, that's the line, but I'm talking about like talent positions. I think I don't think that system thing should be used, because what the Ravens do is when they have three tight ends on the field, and then they'll have one wide out, and he'll be the only one on that side, and then it'll be a QB draw, and they run to the side of one tight end, and that tight end's going to win the block every single time.
Yeah, but
against a small cornerback.
But that's what I was saying. They have like a very creative running
But it's
system.
not that like hard, it's really like fundamental. But these tight ends could also catch. So like even though the like system might be better, the talent isn't.
I mean, Mark Andrews has been really good, and also Hollywood Brown was a first round pick last year in the draft. So it's not like he's like a bum, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just, for like a rookie wide receiver, the expectations are never really there. So I think he's definitely outperformed like a lot of even people that were in his class too. Like he's been a standout guy. Well, Lamar, some things that really stand out for me is he's younger than Joe Burrow at 22. So we're seeing Joe Burrow win the Heisman at 23, and then we're seeing Lamar win the MVP at 22. I think that's really interesting.
Right.
His QBR is 10 points better than Russell Wilson's, with also the most touchdowns in the league at 40. And then the closest one to him there is Deshaun at 34. So that's like a 6 touchdown.
Is that combining passing and throwing?
Total touchdowns.
Okay.
And then also Lamar is the only person other than Tom Brady to throw 5 TDs more than 3 times without any picks.
Okay.
So this is another big stat, especially for Lamar when he came in the league and people diss his passing. He also has like a 66 completion percentage, better than Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, all those guys. And people are saying that this guy's like a wide receiver or running back. And that's super disrespectful, but it just speaks volumes on Lamar and like what he's done this year. And in the NFL's 100th season, I think this is very monumental.
Yeah, I mean,
especially for the movement of the league.
Right. I would say Lamar Jackson would be second. Obviously, he's had a great year. Obviously, his story is better, so I think that helps. Like people were saying, like you should try out at wide receiver. Like he was one of the better players in college, and yet he was taking at the end of the first round rather than those top picks. I think the story helps his case a lot. But when it comes to on the field, I don't think, no one really cares about your story. It's more about production. And to your point that Russell Wilson has been playing with Pete Carroll in that system for a while, I would say that in his earlier years, it was more about the Legion of Boom. And, that was the main part of the Seahawks where, Russell
and
Wilson...
they ran more also before, yeah.
They still run a pretty good amount. But it was more play defense, run the ball. Where that was their identity, where now their defense isn't as good. Like I said, they're 21st in scoring defense. So they've had to shift the way they play and rely more on Russell Wilson. So I think they've kind of honestly changed the way they play, clearly. And I think Russell Wilson has stepped up to the call and has balled out this year. And like I said, to me, 11-3 in the tougher NFC, that's very impressive, especially with the Niners and the Rams in your division to play them and to beat the Niners earlier this year. They're going to play them again. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But if they can maintain that number 1 seed, it's really hard for you to tell me that guy's not doesn't add the most value to his team just based on what he has.
But, I mean, the Ravens have also a really good record.
Yeah, I mean they do, but I also think the Ravens have a better defense.
Okay,
Hawks
that makes
are 21st.
Sense. But both the records are pretty up there.
No, I know. I mean it's like the Ravens are 1 game better, but again, the NFC I would say is a little tougher than the AFC as well.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I just think, Russell's he's a great quarterback, but at the same time, Lamar is...
Yeah, come playoff time, who do you trust more?
Well, you were just talking about the defense, I think I trust the Ravens more.
Which quarterback do you trust more?
I'll take Lamar.
You trust Lamar more in the
playoffs?
playoffs?
Because I also think he had success in last year's playoffs.
I think he got smacked by the Chargers really bad.
The first game?
I think that was the first game.
I don't think he played bad. I think it was more the Ravens.
Ollie, pull it up. No, I remember the first 3 quarters he had 15 passing yards or something ridiculously bad. But I mean, I think he was playing better towards.
But this isn't his first playoff game.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Okay, that's a fair point. This isn't his first playoff game. But yeah, I mean, so he's had a playoff game.
But these stats are also crazy because he's beating out Tom Brady and all these guys that people look at as goats and stuff. And
this year,
he was a guy that was sleeping in the draft because people weren't picking him, and now he scored more fantasy points than Mahomes from last year already.
Yeah,
with games left to go,
running really.
And that was he was the MVP, so Mahomes still ran a good amount last year, and he's had rushing touchdowns this year. I just feel this era is just beginning, and I feel he's kind of the face I think the NFL should go behind as well.
I think there's a lot of faces. I wouldn't say he's better than Mahomes yet. I would take Mahomes over him.
Yeah. But I also think Mahomes is almost not that he's gone down, but he's kind of taking a step back, and maybe we'll see Lamar do the same thing.
He got hurt, but come playoff time, watch out for the Chiefs, watch out for Mahomes. I told y'all that last show, and they did not disappoint last week, so watch out for them.
To clarify the Ravens playoff game, the Ravens didn't get smacked. They lost 23-17, but Lamar Jackson didn't have the best game. Threw for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Was 14 for 29.
They lost to the Chargers?
Yeah.
Chargers were good last year.
I remember I remember that in the first.
I mean, that's not bad.
I remember the first three quarters he
That's
did
pretty good.
really bad. Like if you can check on that, the first 3 quarters he did really bad. In the fourth quarter, I think they're coming from behind.
It's
but it's also
kind
his
of
first
irrelevant.
playoff game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they only scored 3 points in the first
3
quarters.
Okay,
Yeah.
exactly, and exactly.
I mean, still got 17 points. Lost by a touchdown. First playoff game, which is pretty good.
What
I
was
think the
the
Chargers had.
score at the end of the 3 quarters?
12-3.
Okay, so it was
Yeah,
relatively close.
So I mean,
Okay, we can move.
I mean, what
on
were
now.
the Chargers were also like a 10-win team, 10
Yeah.
plus win team. So
Yeah, but then they got smacked by the Patriots actually.